You're listening now to the Real Estate Lab with Bayut. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Labs with Bayut.com. Today we have a very special guest from a global brand, Savills. He is Head of Residential for the Middle East. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while.
Yeah, a little while. There's been a lot going on.
There certainly has. I've known you for a number of years now. You've been in the market for quite some time now. And I'd just like to say hats off to you for what you've done at Savills over a very short period of time. Obviously, Savills have had a footprint here in the UAE market, but it just seems to have accelerated massively over maybe a year and a half, 2 years. What's behind that?
Well, look, yeah, Savills have actually been in the Gulf region for 50 years next year. So we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. And throughout that time, we've got a range of services. You know, one of the biggest valuation services, we have strategic consulting, capital markets, commercial, pretty much everything you'd expect from Savills. Traditionally, they have tinkered around with residential, and actually there's some things a lot of people don't know. Savills actually holds the record for the most expensive sale in residential history, 600 million on end fund. But it was really at the start of last year when I joined that Savills decided strategically that they want to invest and grow within the Middle East. So I came in with a very strong mandate to basically grow that business. And over the past 18 months or so, I think we've become the fastest ever growing company within the real estate sector across the region. So it's been quite a journey, but you know, it's one of the advantages of these big brands. You know, when they want to go big, they really can.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. So just talking numbers wise, where are you at in terms of agent count, and that sort of thing? Do you have a good
Yeah, look,
management?
in 18 months, we started off with 2 people when I first joined, so it was quite a slow start. I think we're currently sitting at around 80 agents in Dubai, about 35 in Abu Dhabi. We've got about over 20 agents that run in our exclusive projects team. We've sold over 10 billion dirhams in that time. So yeah, it's grown very, very quickly.
And are you solely focused on UAE, or are you looking after Middle East?
Yeah, so my role is actually for the whole of the Middle East. We actually also have residential businesses in Oman.
Having a global brand like Savills, how does that sort of help with the operations setting up here in the Middle East?
Well, look, I think as an agent, it's all about how you use that brand. Yeah, if you walk into a listing meeting and you've got the power of the Savills brand behind you and you can't get a listing, that's very much, I think, a reflection of you as an agent. You know, our ability to market globally. You know, we've just signed a listing agreement for a 265 million dirham villa. That doesn't just get marketed on places like Bayut. That's going out to our global portfolio clients, to our residential. You know, it's also about the inbound leads. So many people from around the world at the moment are looking inwards at Dubai. So you know, we're engaging a lot. I was with our Marbella office, our Hong Kong office, Singapore, China, and just trying to really spread the word across the Savills network about what's going on here.
So in terms of the Savills here in the UAE, what is your sort of go-to-market strategy? Are you targeting a certain demographic? Are you looking at the sort of mid to luxury segment?
Well, look, I think there's a few sectors. I sort of break down the market into 4 segments, really. You've, of course, got the luxury market,
Yep.
which Savills is synonymous with. We have about a 50% market share of the 5 million plus market in London. We're the dominant force across UK luxury. You know, the mass market, of course, which is where the vast majority of transactions come. Off-plan, which, as we're seeing at the moment, is around 70% of transactions. And then master agency, you know, where we have, I think, very rapidly become pretty much number 1 in that market, selling out projects like DIFC Heights, you know, Sunshine Bay and others. So, you know, they're really the 4 areas that we're looking at. And I believe that we're the only brand that's actually big enough and capable to actually dominate all of those. So that's really sort of the aggressive growth strategy we're on, and not just targeting, you know, Dubai, but we have basis of operation both in Abu Dhabi, where we were the master agent for the launch of Hidayah Island by Modon previously.
Okay.
We're currently master agent on Vida residences in Sadia, and then in the Northern Emirates, where we're one of the number 1 sellers of Ras Al Khaimah, and we'll shortly be announcing a major master plan project in Sharjah.
Oh, so no exclusive today, no?
Well, we might do it actually. It depends if the actual announcement goes out today. So,
Well, this won't be live until probably the end of the month.
Well,
So.
in that case, we can basically say that we will be the master agency for Kala bin Sultan City by Beer, which is one of the most innovative new master plans coming, designed by Zaha Hadid
Okay.
for Sharjah. So that's going to be really exciting. Between around 400 and 800 townhouses and villas coming.
Fantastic. And whereabouts in Ras Al Khaimah will that be located?
So that one's in Sharjah.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
it's in Sharjah.
yeah,
Sorry, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a
Fantastic.
good one.
Okay, nice. Seems like you've been very busy.
It's keeping busy.
Good. So let's look at the luxury market. How has it been in the year of 2025?
Yeah, look, luxury over the past few years has just gone from strength to strength. If you look at the statistics, 10 million dirham plus homes, record numbers of sales going on there. $10 million plus homes. Dubai now outstrips New York and London. Is actually, I think, more than them combined. So we've seen this interest in luxury homes. But I think what's interesting is where that's coming from. Of course, some of it is driven by the super high-end completed villas. We've recently seen record sales in lights of Emirates Hills and Jumeirah Bay and places like that. But it's also driven by, of course, off-plan. Off-plan, like with the rest of the city, is surging. You've seen fantastic developments by people like H&H with Eden Hills, with the Peninsula. You've seen in Abu Dhabi the Four Seasons on Saadiyat that's starting there as well. So you've got these great projects, but also the thing that's really propelling things into the luxury is this new trend of renovations. Half the clients now are delivering sort of truly turnkey properties. So I think the shift in the market compared to back when I was selling luxury 7 or 8 years ago is that everyone now wants really world-class turnkey properties. And if someone delivers that and the product is legitimate, people will pay those prices for them. Because on a comparative basis with the rest of the world, Dubai is still relatively cheap.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're spot on about these turnkey properties, and I think we've maybe spoke about it once or twice on this podcast with other guests. The square footage which has been released these days in your Dubai harbours and places such, it's just very, very small, right? So myself, when I was looking to purchase a property, I had to really fight with myself. Do I want the new ready-built sort of everything's spick and span modern up to date, or do I really want to buy something with a big square footage, pretty old, and just rip out and do it up how I want it? And that's what I ended up doing in the end. And it's just such a massive market these days. Even if you look at Springsville, it's a Springs community.
Yeah.
I lived there probably about, must have been 9-10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I got offered it for an end unit 2-bedroom for about 1.2 million. I was like, I'm buying that for that. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
And they're probably listed for about 4.5 million.
But you start to look at it and you look at the size of those properties.
Yeah.
As you said, like, look, Springs villas are not dissimilar in terms of size and layout to some of the newer townhouses that come on, but they're going to have a lot more square footage on the plot.
Yeah.
And that means you can put in a pool, you can have a nice garden area for your kids. There's a tendency now with developers to try, get as much BUA on the area as possible, often going G+2. And this is the thing with these older communities, the people that are moving here now want solidity. I was speaking to a client I met recently, and he literally looked at some of the new areas, but he really liked the old ones because, like, well, I'm moving my family here. I want to be at home straight away, and I don't want to wait for that community to spend 2 or 3 years maturing.
Of course.
I want the maturity now, and I'm willing to pay for that. And someone's come in and done a good job. And I think certainly when you get into that top end space, what really is the difference now is, in the past, a lot of people did these renovations, but they didn't really do the quality.
Yeah.
They just tarted it up and thought they could get the money.
Yeah.
People see through that. People with money will come in and they'll look and they want to know what the materials are, where the furniture's from. And that's why you're seeing so many more people now. They'll put together a brochure and it'll have all of the brand names of Minotti and everyone else that they've actually used in the property. People know they're paying for quality. And that's why I think there's a big difference in the way that people perceive the market. A lot of people look at this market and they say, oh, that price has tripled. It's clearly gone up too fast. The price hasn't tripled. Someone basically bought it at 10 million. They then spent 10 million on it and they sold it at 30 million. So it hasn't tripled. It's basically gone up 50% in terms of the value. People have put value into that. And that's obviously a hugely encouraging thing for this market. You want people investing back in their properties. You want people improving the communities. And I've said this for a long time. And I reckon if you go back to conversations we've had in the past and others, this whole perception of, oh, well, Dubai can keep building out. We're seeing with the traffic as well, people want to be prime, so the more traffic gets worse, prime and better located properties become more prime. And as a result, people are willing to spend more money on them, and that just elevates their pricing.
What's your thoughts on developers given limitations around how much you can, for instance, extend your property?
Yeah.
Do you think that'll ever ease up, or is that a tact for them to keep selling new developments?
Well, look, I think it's a very good way to try put people off redeveloping their own properties and buy into their new master plans, which can be effective. I think, look, you want people investing in these communities because that's how they can add value. But it's also people want to stay, like they like their house. They might just want to add a bedroom or add some sort of amenity. So you want people investing back. At the same time, you don't want to really fundamentally transform the look or feel of a community. But I think most developers have been relatively successful in allowing this to happen. There are more and more restrictions coming in, but I think that developers, I think if they've got a little bit less land, they tend to realize they can also make money from these extensions. So hopefully they'll allow people to continue to develop that.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2025, let's look at the luxury market again. What communities would you say have been, we could even put a number on it, top 3, top 5 most successful in your eyes?
Well, look, I think I've always been, as you know, a massive advocate for Tilal Al Ghaf.
Yeah.
I think that was probably more a 2024 thing. Tilal Al Ghaf is pretty much sold out now. But what you're seeing now is the resales coming. And again, one of the things that had is just a different level of quality and customization from anything else that's happened. I think that H&H have taken up the mantle. Eden Hills, offering a new sort of luxury villa development is something that people are very interested in. And again, it's almost a little bit of a return of the super prime apartment space. We'd seen a lot of stock launch and then we had a bit of a lull. But with what's been going on, with everything from Dubai Harbour Residences, the W next door to that, the peninsula, everything that's happening down there with Amman hitting record prices, in Abu Dhabi, Four Seasons. But what I'm also excited about are the new super developments that are coming that just continue to sort of push those boundaries back, basically.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Is there anything in particular you're really looking forward to sort of hand it over and developing into a community?
Well, look, there's a project announcement coming soon in the sort of in the downtown DIFC area, which I think is going to be amazing. That's going to be transformative. Some really cool brands in. What I'm also excited about at the same time, though, is seeing some of these projects start to hand over. Like there's a lot of stuff under development. I'm really excited to see Six Senses when it's done on the Palm. I think that's going to be a fantastic project. But also the other thing is, I think the growth of the real estate market here being now more than Dubai. You're seeing people really get into Abu Dhabi in a very strong way, and new and exciting projects going on there. Ras Al Khaimah, I'm a big believer in with what's happening there. And again, I've seen some of the projects that are coming down the line now, and they are truly world class. So there's a lot to be excited for, and I think that's the best part of this landscape of real estate. There's just always so much going on.
You just got to be careful with Ras Al Khaimah. You don't want to miss the bus, do you? And it's like the more and more reputable brands that are starting to come out there. You've got the one, I think, just announced recently they're doing a second project there. It's like, yeah, now it seems as if it's a really good idea. Should I go for it?
Well, look, I think when it comes to RAC, you've got to remember that the Wind's investment and the tourism numbers, a tourism growth from 1 million to 5 million by 2030, a hotel key deficit of 8,000 hotel keys, 45,000 new properties needed over the next few years. With all of the launches, they're not close to satisfying that demand. And a lot of people always say, well, what about when there's a casino in Dubai and Abu Dhabi? The reality is, Wind's numbers that they put together assumed that there would be 2 more integrated casinos in the UAE. So they've already factored this in. So I think, it is a tourism play, of course. RAC Central is coming to deal with the commercial aspect, but it really is the burgeoning of a new area. And I think, look, there's still a lot of variety in the property. You need to be careful, like with everywhere. everywhere. There's some really great brands that are coming. There's some really great projects, and then there's some less than exciting projects. I think you've got to think. I think waterfront is pretty key. That's what people want there.
Yeah.
And again, just making sure your price per square foot makes sense in the comparisons and what amenities those projects bring. But I think I've got a lot of belief in that and Abu Dhabi on top of Dubai.
Looking at high net worth individuals, have you noticed any changes in their preferences over the last maybe year?
So I think what we've seen when it comes to high net worth, ultra high net worth is a different sort of, I don't want to say caliber, it's the wrong phrase, but it's a different type of person that's coming over now. I've talked a lot before about the fact it's a more mature client. It's sort of, real capital, it's finances, investment, it's business owners. And there's an element of sophistication that's coming in now. And I think that's the big driver. It's that really you're getting people that are used to a certain standard and they want that. You've always got to remember when it comes to the ultra wealthy, they don't need to buy. And a lot of agents will sit there and say, I don't understand why that guy rented for 5 million dirhams. Well, if they were going to buy, it was going to be 100 million dirhams. So they spent 5% of what they would have spent.
Yeah.
And actually, if they keep that 95 million, they're going to make 30% on their capital. So actually, they're making 25% by renting. So there's a different mindset that exists there.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's they want the quality that they're used to, and again, that's a big driving force that's really coming through now.
And it just seems as if there's more and more of them coming. I mean, especially from our country in the UK. The UK has got its own problems at the moment. It's just driving talent away by the looks of it. But I suppose that's a good thing for us. Do you see that to continue happening?
Look, I think when I look at the landscape of where the UAE sits, it has every advantage going for it of its own design. This is not luck. This is strategy by the government.
Yep.
I think that the visa situation, the golden visas, has been transformative, and I have no doubt over the next 10 years we're going to see a development of retirement visas and things that allow people to stay longer and longer.
Yeah.
I think when you look at Europe, the issues that they're facing, and they are ranging. We don't just want to emphasis on crime or tax. There's mixtures. Every country has a different nuance.
Yep.
But all of that, I suppose they're push factors for people to go. But the thing that's making this happen is the pull factors. There's only so much that pushing works, and I think the UAE has set their pull factors very effectively. And whether it is the safety and security, the incredible schooling, the weather and the tax now are almost secondary. People want to live here for lifestyle, and
Yep.
that's the choice they're making. And I think that that's going to become something where people are much more long. I'm sure I moved here 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago, and I was doing 2 years, and then I was moving back, and I'm still here. I can't remember the last person I spoke to that was moving here for 2 years.
Yeah.
People are now moving here.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean forever, but they're coming here when this is the next section of my life. And I think that's the maturity that Dubai and the UAE now has.
Yeah, like it's just over the years, it's pulled in a number of tourists that have just continued to come back and come back and come back, who think understand the place, they get to know the place, they feel comfortable within the place, and then they make that decision to, you know what, sod this, I'm moving.
Yeah.
And I think it will continue to happen. I don't see why that it wouldn't with the current state of affairs back into especially UK. But we welcome it. Yeah, more people, more properties for you to sell.
More as much as everyone complains about the traffic, it's good news for us because it's more people, more properties that need to be rented and sold.
Well, let's hope we get some road workers.
Yeah, exactly.
Over to help build more. Andrew, look, what's your sort of predictions going into next year? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, very. Look, we did our half-year report. We were predicting another 4 to 6% increase in pricing in Dubai. As I look forward, as you said, the fundamentals are very clear. Whenever anyone talks, and look, there's a lot of naysayers in the market, and just like someone with a broken watch, they will be right at some point. But the reality is, there is currently nothing to slow down Dubai's progress, be that in transaction numbers or pricing. There's an influx of people. We passed the 4 million mark now. Population and demand is still very, very strong across the UAE. Whilst that sustains, developers are just playing catch up. And when you look around and you go into most communities now, there are not 20, 30 villas available in one community. There's 5, and 3 of them are rented. So, there is still heavy competition. And I think that we've still got a very strong market for the foreseeable future.
What changes would you like to see to the market?
Well, at the moment, as a realtor, not many. I think everyone's sort of enjoying it. I think, I want to see, like you said, actually, I want to see the developers enabling people to actually, really develop. I want to make sure that, some of the master plans, are really thought through. I think when you look at something like a Tal Al Gaf or a Dubai Hills, those are incredible master plans. They've got amenities and everything else. When I look at some of the projects they're launching now, it's a lot of villas stacked around a field or something.
Yeah.
That's not the same as it was. And I think, developers need to make sure that they're continuing to give that full lifestyle option for
Yeah.
people. And look, we're seeing new islands, Naya Island and Travel Punk, might be a few more soon, who knows. So I think, look, we just need to make sure, as a brand and as realtors, that we're offering the more professional service that's needed for these more mature clients that are coming in now. And I think if we do that, we'll have continued good growth.
Perfect. Well, Andrew, thank you very much for coming in today. It's been a great conversation. For everyone at home, if you are looking for a luxury property or you're looking for any type of property, I'm sure Andrew and his team at Savills will be more than happy to accommodate you. Once again, it's been great to see you, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're listening now to the Real Estate Lab with Bayut.